hands.
Hey,
We're
big
live.
time here.
And we're live, Chris.
Hey, we are live.
Yes. So, Chris, the 2025 NFL Draft first round is now in the books, and the New York Giants added a potential future starting quarterback, but not with the first overall pick that they had. No, the first pick that they added, blue chip talent, Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State. Chris, I got to get your overall feelings about how this draft manifested, how it materialized, what the New York Giants did, Joe Schoen trading back up. What are your initial thoughts?
Can you say that a team trading back into the first round is chalk? Because by this morning, that's what it felt like. Mentioned this on the stream we had the other night with Ed and Tony, that it was starting to feel a little weird that you had Peter Schrager and you had Todd McShay and you had Daniel Jeremiah and you've got Mike Mayock and then today Dane Brugler, everybody predicting Abdul Carter, which that completely predictable. That makes absolute sense. That makes football sense. That makes every kind of sense. But then a trade back up in for Jackson Dart, that somebody knew something. Actually, many people knew some things.
It was a leak
to predict that. It made sense, but man, to predict that pick, oof.
Someone get Billy Mays out here because we got a leak.
Yeah,
in the front office. Yeah, no, it was.
I'll be honest, conspiracy brain. I have some thoughts on that one, but you know what? It's fine.
Oh man, I would love to entertain your conspiracies, but hey, I know a lot of people have a lot of mixed feelings about this. The way I generally view this situation is, firstly, the Giants did not burn a top pick on a quarterback or reach on a quarterback. They got the blue chip talent and one of the best players in this entire draft in Abdul Carter. Let's not forget that. They, in my opinion, Joe Schoen was aggressively trying to trade up with several teams, including the Seahawks, possibly the Chargers, all of those teams that took their pick down to 1 minute left. I think Joe Schoen was on the board or was on the phone with them. And a lot of those teams maybe were trying to push Joe Schoen for 105 or 65. And he said, kick rocks. Next year's 399. And that's where it is. They wanted to jump the Rams, who were interested in Jackson Dart. I can't be mad about Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll getting their quarterback, their guy, when those guys do occupy those positions right now still. And that was the byproduct of both of them retaining their jobs. You got to get your coach and your general manager the quarterback that they view as the quarterback of the future. That investment now has been made with a trade up in the first round, and it didn't take all that much. Next year's 3, I would like to have that. We don't know what that pick's going to be, but that's not a see what the Falcons did with James Pierce Jr., right? That was the next year's 1. You see some of the other trades that happened. Next year's 1s were involved. In this, it was just a 3 this year and a 3 next year and 34. And you move up, you get your guy. I would be a hypocrite if I threw a fit about this quarterback and general manager getting their guy, right? I'd be a hypocrite because I know the value of, hey, if you have conviction on a quarterback, you just got to do it. Absolutely. And they did it. So I'd be a hypocrite if I threw a fit about that. So I'm not going to throw a fit about that. I think Jackson Dart has projectable traits, Chris. He does.
I agree.
But
I agree completely.
It's difficult to, I think, ascertain how those traits will project if he cannot read what he's seeing. But I can't get this guy on a freaking chalkboard, right?
Yeah.
They can. So, they did what they had to do. And I don't know if Jackson Dart's going to work out. I don't, but quarterback's got to get his guy. You got to give him that chance. And this is possibly his final year in the job, which I do not like for the longevity, but hopefully it's not if this team can be competitive. And the Abdul Carter pick makes you competitive. And hopefully Jackson Dart doesn't see the field this year, and it's Russell Wilson.
That's exactly what I wrote, in the instant analysis of the Dart pick. Is that what does he bring to the field right now? Hopefully nothing, probably nothing, because if Jackson Dart is on the field, either something has gone horribly wrong with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, or something has gone incredibly, unpredictably correct with Jackson Dart, and he has just absolutely caught fire in the NFL and passed up those 2 veterans. So, but I'm not predicting that at all. For me, Dart kind of always did make sense for the Giants because, like you said, he's got projectable traits. He has that big arm that we've talked about this before. We talked about this a lot. The Giants want to push the ball downfield, and so much of their offense clicks when you have that vertical aspect to the offense. That's why they got Russell Wilson. That's why they got Captain YOLO himself, Jameis Winston. They've re-signed Darius Slayton. They've got Jalen Hyatt. They've got Malik Neighbors. They have speed. They've got the vertical talent on this offense. Dart has the arm to eventually take advantage of that. He also has plenty of athleticism. Dude can move. He can run. He's averaged at least 500 yards. He's averaged a little bit over 500 yards over the last 3 years at Ole Miss, and he's had 12 rushing touchdowns over the last 3 years. He can move. He can make the defense pay if they turn their back on him. He can pick up yards, and he can score with his legs. So you look at what Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll have, the types of quarterbacks they have surrounded themselves with in the past. You can't exactly say that Jalen Hurts was a Brian Daboll quarterback, but they worked together at Alabama. When Joe Schoen was a national scout for the Miami Dolphins, they drafted Ryan Tannehill, who was a converted position player to quarterback, mobile, good arm, raw. Then get to Buffalo. They obviously move up for Josh Allen. Then they get Mitchell Trubisky. They get Davis Webb. Get to New York. They bring in Tyrod Taylor. They bring in Davis Webb. They bring in Drew Lock. They bring in Jameis Winston. They bring in Russell Wilson. All mobile guys who can throw the ball deep. So with those traits, Jackson Dart does, he lines up. And to me, I was kind of predicting it or expecting it to come down to either Dart or Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
And I think if the Giants couldn't execute that trade, then they probably would have pivoted to Milroe or maybe Tyler Shuck at the top of the second round. But getting that trade and giving up really a compensatory pick and a future third round pick to turn 34 into a first round pick, get that 5th year option. So they've got the youngest quarterback in the draft locked up for 5 years, which if everything goes as planned, he'll be their starter for 4 of them. And hopefully their franchise quarterback for 4 of them. It's really hard to complain about that, at least for right now. Well, check back again in 2026.
For right now, yes. In 2024, I mean, he threw for 4,276 passing yards with 29 touchdowns, 6 picks. 2023, it was 23 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. I mean, he has a turnover-worthy play rate of 2.7% through his career with a big-time throw rate of 6. That was a 7.1% big-time throw rate in 2024. But again, he is playing in an RPO, spread-heavy offense that focuses on taking advantage of space, really. And
Yes.
that space is not available in the NFL because the hashes are much shorter and the athletes are much quicker. So can Jackson Dart take his skill set and all of those developmental traits that we discussed through this podcast, and can he be able to leverage them in the NFL? I think they're translatable traits, sure. But if you're not seeing or processing the defense pre to post snap, and the speed is too much for you, then it doesn't matter how good your arm talent is. And he has good arm talent, right?
Yes.
I think his arm talent falls somewhere on the spectrum. If there's elite, which is like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, and then there's excellent, which is like maybe Justin Herbert. I mean, he could even be argued in the elite. And then there's very good and good. He's in that like good to very good when it comes to arm talent. I think that's fair, right?
Yeah. I would say he's probably about an 8 out of 10 as far as arm goes.
8 out of 10, and he can push the ball vertically. He'll be able
Yep.
to hit the throws between the numbers, the throws
Yep.
outside the numbers. He handled those quick RPO concepts very well. Put a defender in conflict. Whatever the defender does, you do the opposite and you make them pay.
Yep.
He's tough, stands in the pocket, takes hits. He's physical. They are designed runs for him all throughout that offense. And, Dable has used design runs since he's arrived here with the
Yes.
Giants, with Daniel Jones, with freaking Tommy DeVito we saw back in
Yep.
2023. That's going to be an element of his profile that will be leveraged by the New York Giants. And I appreciate that. And also, he's got a moxie about him, dude. He's got a chip on his shoulder. There's a ton of Giants connections as well. I got to get a list of these, man. I got to find the list of the Giant connections, like Eli Manning, this and that. There's several when it comes to Jackson Dart. So the writing was on the wall, but I am curious as to exactly how it leaked. But yeah, overall, man, I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh man, we definitely got a quarterback in the future." I do see the developmental side of Jackson Dart, but hey, that's why we got a quarterback whisperer. If he's actually an actual quarterback whisperer, allow him to whisper to this quarterback and allow this quarterback to shout from the rooftops of the Empire State Building.
Hey, quarterback whisperer and a former quarterback as his offensive coach, and a quarterback from the Andy Reid tree. So I think that does bode well here as well. And one thing I do like is that for right now, there's really no pressure on Jackson Dart. He doesn't have to do anything in September but sit and learn. He's quarterback 3. And you look at a lot of the best quarterbacks, they got to sit. And we have talked quite a bit about, what's the NFL's problem with quarterback development? Why are there so many busts? And I think part of it is that just because of the financial stresses of, you get your rookie, you got to get him out there. You have to get him producing because you only have that 5-year window before you got to pay him. That making that jump from college to the NFL, where the game is just that much faster, the defenses are that much more sophisticated. Even if you're in a quarterback-friendly offense, just everything on the mental plate is just that much more and that much faster. There's a culture shock to it, and that development curve is steep, and guys, they tend to trip over it quite a bit. But you look at the guys like Pat Mahomes, he sat for a year. Jordan Love, he sat for 2 years. I think we could say Joe Burrow, he didn't exactly sit for a year. It was more of an enforced sit because he tore his ACL, but he got his feet wet and then he had to sit. And Lamar Jackson, he sat behind Joe Flacco, an incredibly different style of quarterback. But then what happened? He came out and won the MVP basically immediately. So I do like that there's really no pressure on Dart to start right away, that they can work with him with all of the infrastructure the Giants put in place to basically try to turn Daniel Jones into Josh Allen. They've got that. They have the experience now. Hopefully that can work to Dart's advantage. And also,
please go on. Yes,
I would say some of the things, like you talked about his mental toughness. When I was doing my deep dive on him, some of the things I read, like when USC brought in Miller Moss, he practically killed himself to be the number 2 there. And then he took it as a personal insult when Ole Miss had a quarterback transfer in. And that's when he took his game to the next level and started putting up crazy numbers in Kiffin's offense. So that part of his mental makeup, that confidence, that hyper competitiveness, I like.
And that's something that Joe Shane and Brian Dable appreciate.
especially Dabs.
Oh, yes, dude. Absolutely. The dog, right? That's what Malik Neighbors was, a
Yeah.
dog. And I know people like roll their eyes and they think it's cheesy, but you want your quarterback to have that element in him. You want your quarterback to have that, oh, the team is going to rally around him. Oh, wait, there's somebody who's trying to take my job. I ain't going to let that. You want that in your quarterback. Jackson Dart certainly has that. And I love how we've spent the first 15 minutes talking about Jackson Dart. This is what quarterbacks do. But the New York Giants selected somebody well before they took Jackson Dart, and that is Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State, a player who had, 66 pressures in his first season as an edge rusher. He spent his first 2 years in college as a linebacker. And I went back and I watched 2023 linebacking tape of Abdul Carter. Look, he's not always dialed in, but you could see how he understands what he's seeing. I watched the game against Iowa, and Iowa pulls their guards and they run counter and they do a lot of like fancy stuff up front. He's reading it. He's kicking his linebackers over to account for the extra gaps on the other side. He's fitting physically. I wrote a whole piece on Abdul Carter, as did you. I encourage people to go and read both of those pieces. The Giants got a possible elite pass rusher. Guy had a 22.8% pass rush win rate, which ranked, I think, third in the FBS last season. There's a lot of great things you could say about him. I don't want to start negatively because I do really like Abdul Carter, and I had him as a top 3 player in this draft class. I did want to propound an idea towards you just about his run defense and how the Giants are going to use him, because he's not necessarily I'm going to anchor my feet into the ground and stack and shed a 300-pound offensive tackle. That's not who Abdul Carter is, nor does he have a lot of power rush moves. I watched so much Abdul Carter tape. There's like a few reps of him actually employing a bull rush. The one against UCLA really comes to my mind, but other than that, there wasn't one that like really stood out. He's much more of a, like, the way I termed it in my report is he reminds me of Neo from the Matrix, because he can go in every direction and dodge offensive tackle punches.
Yes, I love that.
You just can't frame him up. There's no way to frame him up because he's so sudden and elite with how he is going to bait, tempo his rush, and get offensive tackles to declare. And once that offensive tackle declares, he does such a good job getting around and avoiding that offensive tackle's punch and then reorienting himself in the direction that he needs to go. That's where he thrives, Abdul Carter. Yes. That's translatable.
It is.
But not into every context. So I wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think how he fits into this Giants defense is going to be interesting. I'm kind of picturing him as on base downs being an outside linebacker. Yeah, having probably Kayvon playing up on the line, and then Carter.
Wow.
Number 11 from Penn State
playing
behind him. Because like you said, in the run defense, I saw that as well. Like, he does not stack and shed yet. He shoots gaps. He stresses guys with his athleticism, super sudden, and he just slips past blocks. He is like water getting through. And yeah, I think Kayvon has actually turned into a pretty darn good run defender. So use Carter as a run and chase space player in base downs if you're going to have all 3 guys on the field. Now, as a space player, I don't think he's particularly instinctive. I think he processes quickly. Like you said, as soon as the offensive lineman declares, he just says, okay, well, I'm just going to go where you aren't.
Yeah.
And just twitches right past him. But he does need to see the play develop. And I think that was why he took off this year, because the one thing he does exceptionally well is time that snap. Like, I don't know how often he was the first player moving, but it was multiple times a game. Like, he just explodes as soon as there's a twitch on the ball. And then he is in the backfield. I am fascinated to see what happens with him and Coach Chaos. especially seeing as how the Giants have Dexter Lawrence. They've got Brian Burns. That's something
You
we
call him Coach Chaos?
uh wasn't that his nickname?
You talk about Sean Spencer. It's Coach Chaos.
Am I just going back in time?
You just went back to Joe Judge, bro.
Oh man,
wrong path.
I apologize. I would like to apologize to that.
You're talking about Dre Patterson.
Yes.
Yeah. Now Dre, man,
although I do think that the nickname does apply to him as well, because his dudes do create chaos. I mean, what he did with Linval Joseph and Dexter Lawrence, yeah.
He's one of the best I mean, I don't know if I have enough knowledge of all the defensive line coaches to make that assertion.
He's up there.
He develops defensive linemen. He maximizes their hands. And Abdul Carter, and look, I know he's a defensive line coach. He's not an edge coach. He's going to work with Andre Patterson. He's going to be doing drills with Andre Patterson. But with Abdul Carter specifically, he has like a wide array of pass rushing moves, but he could still do better with them as well. Because again, like his primary trait is his movement ability. Like that's his primary trait. And every other trait that can take his game to another level, where we're talking about Pro Bowler, All Pro, Hall of Fame, all of those traits can still be developed, can still be groomed. And Dre Patterson has the ability to do that specifically with the hand usage. So I'm looking forward to that. And look, man, watching the Penn State tape, he was the most popular guy in the world. Everyone wanted to touch Abdul Carter, right? Like there was 3 guys sliding his direction. Running back was always
and it didn't matter.
And it didn't really matter. And it led to a lot of sacks that didn't even come up on the stat sheet, or even pressures for Abdul Carter. That's how much of an impact he had for the Nittany Lions. Now you put him with Dexter Lawrence, and you put him with Brian Burns and a Kayvon Thibodeau, who just had his 5th-year option picked up. I think we said this earlier, but I'm going to say it, not in this stream, but we said it on previous streams. I'm going to say it again. The Giants might have the best pass rush in the National Football League.
Yes, they already had a very good pass rush. I think, like we said the other night, if the Giants can get their offense to be competent, they are going to create havoc in opposing backfields. Like they're just going to terrorize opposing quarterbacks, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Now, I'm with you. I would like to see Carter add a power element to his rush. One thing I did see on his tape that I wasn't crazy about was a slight lack of play strength. I noticed Donovan Jackson was actually kind of able to handle him, even though he was a guard, and it was usually because if he was able to access his torso, he was able to disrupt the rush enough that Will Howard was able to get the ball off. Even though Carter had a really good game against Ohio State, it was just those few instances where it was almost like a running back being disrupted by incidental contact around the line of scrimmage. I'd like to see him get better at playing through that, and then adding like the long arm, the bull rush to his repertoire, just as the counter for when guys are prepared for his speed, because he is going to face some good offensive tackles.
He's certainly going to face some good offensive tackles. And you saw Washington in this draft be like, all right, we've got to play them twice a year. Let's draft Josh Conerly Jr. And that is such a good pick. Such a good pick for Washington with Cliff Kingsbury. Because they're going to run all those little bubble and tunnel screens. And Josh Conerly Jr. moves like he's a tight end sometimes when he's out there. So it's like, gosh, that's such a good pick. Such a good fit. And then on the flip side, you have Tyler Booker going to Dallas, and you're like, yeah, because they got to handle Dexter Lawrence twice a year. They got to handle pass rush from Jalen Carter in the Philadelphia Eagles. And Booker's a good football player. That's a good pick. The NFC East did well for themselves, as they tend to do in the draft. And the Giants, they're that wild card with Jackson Dart. It's like, what is he going to be? Does he have the potential to be the long-term solution what the Giants have been looking for how long? But yeah, overall, dude, this was I think it was a solid day 1. I gotta say, day 2 is gonna be boring unless the Giants trade. They have 1 pick. They had 3. Now they only have 1. It's just 65, right smack dab in the middle. I don't know if you want to transition off Abdul Carter and maybe look a little bit to day 2 quickly.
We can do that.
And I just want to ask you. I still like my major concern with the Giants roster, and there are several minor concerns. I think they could use another wide receiver. I think they could use another cornerback. I think they could use interior offensive line help, although I don't know if the board is conducive for that right now, unless it's the kid from Arizona, maybe at
Yeah,
65. But
that could be interesting.
it could be. A defensive tackle is my concern at the moment still. And I know the Giants have like 10 defensive tackles on their roster. I trust one of them. It's not a great situation, especially if you play two high shells and you have, 4 guys dropping and a light box is playing -1 or even in the box. You want another really reliable run defender on early downs to allow this pass rush to pin the rears back on 2nd and long, 3rd and long, and allow Shane Bowen to run the coverages that he wants to run. So at 65, first off, do you agree with my assessment on my major concern? And secondly, what are you looking at for the Giants when it comes to pick 65?
I think trench play probably should be on the menu. Maybe Savinea out of Arizona. If he happens to be sticking around at that point, he would be I think he could be a really fun pick. Just slide right in there at right guard, and right tackle will figure itself out. As far as on the defensive line, yeah, I'm kind of looking at Shamar Turner out of Texas A&M. I think he was overshadowed by Shamar Stewart, the other Shamar, who might be already the purely most athletic height, weight, speed freak on the edge in the NFL, which is saying something. But Turner, honestly, to me, was the better player of them. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping TJ Sanders slips to that first pick in the 3rd round. Could definitely see Jordan Phillips, Ed's guy from Maryland, be the pick there as well. But yeah, I also could see the Giants maybe go skill position, but they might save that for day 3 and stock up on running backs. Maybe if some wide receivers slip, do that, because they do need to get the offense really going.
Running back eventually. And we know they brought in top running back. They brought in like Omarion Hampton, who was a 1st-round pick. They brought in Kinshawn Judkins from Ohio State, Caleb Johnson from Iowa. They have an affinity for the running back position in this draft class. It's a deep running back position, though.
It is.
Outside chance. And it's just because I turned this guy's tape on after the Giants brought him in, and I loved him. And I thought he was really good. And I think he could play a very diverse and versatile role in the sub packages for the Giants. And that is a player like Andrew Makuba from Texas, the safety. They brought him in for a top 30.
Yes.
I was like, wow, this kid. And I watched Texas's defense. And I love like Jada Barron, who went in the 1st round as well. I watched Alfred Collins, and I loved what Alfred Collins offers. And then I watched him, and I'm like, Makuba is different. He's small, right?
Yeah.
He could be like a nickel for you. He could be a safety. The 3 safety packages
would do it all.
He's a do it all. And if you're going to get a guy like that, you got to get him at 65. And I don't even know in this draft if he's going to fall that far. The only reason he is probably because of size. I'm not suggesting that's what the Giants should do. I think they should address defensive tackle depending on who is there. But it's an outside chance player that I think if the Giants actually really want him, they'd have to get him there.
Yeah, I think maybe like we've got JJ Pegues out of Ole Miss. Jackson Dart's power back at defensive tackle, sitting there in the 4th round of our board. I think he could be an interesting option. Maybe not as a running back, but as a guy to further beef up that defensive line. And I think the Giants are, depending on how the board falls, they're pretty well positioned to go best player available with that 65 pick, though with an eye towards either right tackle, right guard, or defensive tackle, just depending on how it all falls together. Yeah, I don't think linebacker is really going to be in play, especially with Carter in the fold and Micah Parsons having a just breakout year last year. I hope he gets extended, and also having Okereke there, of course.
Did you say Michael Parsons?
No, McFadden.
I'm not sure. Somebody double check me on that. We know what he meant.
No, don't double check us.
No, yeah, no,
It's,
you're
it's
right.
Friday. Don't double check us.
Oh, it is Friday. Shit. I mean, damn, that's crazy. I mean, I'm literally going and I'm watching Jackson Dart tape after this, getting back into it, even though I already watched like 6 games of his. I got to find new tape. I wish
Thanks,
I had
Rivka.
access. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Rivka, for double checking our guy there. Rivka, we miss you. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, I wish we had easier access to watch this film. I see, dude. I have people I'm friends with, Chris, in this space who can like easily watch players and like go through their tape, and it's like we need to get on getting us access to that.
Yeah.
Going through MP4 files is taxing.
Just a bit, yeah. Earlier, I heard Todd McShay talking about going through Jackson Dart's pressure reel, just every play of his when he was under pressure. Man, I'd love to get my hands on that.
The throws that I've seen under pressure. So Jackson Dart, I had the stat in front of me recently. I pulled it off my evaluation. Dart did well against the blitz in 2024, throwing 12 touchdowns with just 2 interceptions. He completed 66.2% of his passes against the blitz and had an 8.4% big time throw rate. That sounds great, but there were plays that just watching the tape that I would see Jackson Dart getting pressured and he would do some stupid shit. And I was like, no, don't do that. So like, maybe it was just those 2 interceptions, and I'm not even sure if it was blitz. It could have just been a breakdown in pressure. I'm going to watch it with a fine tooth comb here in a little bit to really give a more detailed evaluation on that now that he is the Giants quarterback. But I didn't necessarily come away from his film being, oh, this guy's great against the blitz, right? Like there were times on his tape that the pressure, like his first read got eliminated off of this, because again, these are packaged plays that Lane Kiffin, and what I mean by packaged plays, like, okay, we got the RPO reading one player, and now, okay, I'm going to pass it. And I have 2 options to throw with a defender in conflict. I'm going to be right, 50% of the time. I just got to make the right read. That's what a lot of that offense is. And it's on him to make those correct reads. And he did that very well, but that's just not necessarily something that's translatable to a down in, down out basis at the NFL level. That's the issue. Yeah. So now he has to read through things in a much more methodical manner, and it's a lot quicker and it's a lot and that's why there is a little bit of consternation when it comes to Jackson Dart and how he can translate. But yeah, no, I didn't come away from his tape thinking he was excellent against the blitz. Was my overall point, though.
No, he had impressive plays where like he'd be under pressure, sidestep the pressure, climb up, and then deliver the pass. And then he also had the derp plays.
Did you say derp? I love that.
Derp, yes,
very derpy.
Which, yeah, also 21-year-old guy. He wasn't a professional yet, and I. Just to circle back, like that is the benefit he has, and the good thing about what the Giants did in free agency and getting those 2 veteran quarterbacks, that they now have kind of the infrastructure, the scaffolding there around him to build him up. And then they can, once he is ready, they can take the training wheels off and just, now you can go be a professional. So it will be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing him in camp and preseason.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing that's beautiful about this draft pick, right?
Yep.
If you just think to August, we would get like one drive from Daniel Jones. Last year we got the remember the Texans game? We were like, this is terrible. What are we? Now we're going to be, Russell Wilson, okay, cool. You get your one drive. Okay, starter. Oh, Jameis is fun. He gets 2 or 3 drives. And then it's just Jackson Dart the rest of the time. Yep. We're going to be like, I'm going to watch this tape so intently. It's going to be amazing. Like, I absolutely love that.
Somehow we will have the screen under a microscope. It'll be beautiful.
Did you see that read? You see what he did? And he's the type of kid, dude. He's gonna be what at that time? He's 21 right now. He's so freaking young. So at that time, he'll probably he's his birthday he'll be turning 22 in May. So this is a young guy, the youngest quarterback in this draft class that the
Yes.
Giants went out and got. Solid size, not the biggest guy in the world, but good thickness, carries his weight well. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes, man. And on top of it, we got Abdul Carter. Everyone wanted
Yeah.
Abdul Carter.
Yeah, somehow he is the afterthought.
Yes. And just on the draft in general, before we get out of here, how much did Jacksonville trade to go up 3 spots? That was crazy, dude.
that was insane. And man, the Browns, they needed that. Like, just after everything they have given up for Deshaun Watson. Now,
Yes.
hopefully Mel Kiper gets some relief. I didn't have the ESPN broadcast on, but apparently his head was ready to explode multiple times every time a team didn't draft Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, really? See, I don't even know. Like, I wasn't really paying attention to any of the networks. Was he was losing his mind?
Oh, yeah. I don't think Mel Kiper has loved a quarterback as much as Shedeur Sanders since Jimmy Clausen.
Oh, man, that was a miss.
Yeah.
I didn't know he loves Shedeur Sanders. I can't say I pay attention to ESPN.
Apparently, Shedeur was Mel's QB1.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
He got so worked up, he said Peyton Manning fell in the draft.
Did he really?
Yes.
What is he watching?
I don't know. He fell all the way to 1.
Yeah, it's really odd. Like, Shedeur is like fine. Like, I didn't have a first round grade on Shedeur Sanders. I didn't see like the physical upside for Shedeur, but if you want somebody who can run a rhythmic, distributive offense,
I think he could do well in the Browns offense. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he was the first pick tomorrow or later today.
I wouldn't be shocked either. I'm a little concerned about him in cold. I don't know if that's fair or not, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will. And we'll see what happens with Abdul Carter. We'll see what happens with Jackson Dart. And we'll see what happens at 65th overall later today.
I know, later today. That's true. All right. Well, do we have anything else here, Chris? This
know what? You asked me. Who are you looking at for 65 overall?
Oh, I'm looking at. I would like Alfred Collins. I think if Alfred Collins could fall
get down to that,
because I don't think Darius Alexander will. I'd be fine with Darius Alexander. TJ Sanders from South Carolina, Joshua Farmer. Like, I'm really focusing on defensive tackle, and I'm not the kind of guy who's going to be like, hey, we need to get a defensive tackle. I just think there's a lot of quality defensive tackles left, and if 2 of them are available at that point of the draft at 65, I know that it fills a need, and it's also a player who's worth that value with the names that I just mentioned. Omar Norman Lott, you could throw in there as well. So that's where I'm looking. There's like I look at some of these wide receivers. Are any of these guys going to fall? This is a deep wide receiver class, but guys like I don't think Jalen Noel will be around by that point, right? Like Jack,
he's going round 2.
Like, I love Kyle Williams from Washington State, but I don't like the Giants don't need a receiver, but I think it would be nice if they added another receiver that they could really rely on, because I don't think they can rely on Jalen Hyatt at the moment.
No.
But mostly I really just want to fix the run defense. And I think the best way to do that is to just find that, okay, we're in base personnel, who's starting next to Dexter Lawrence? Because I don't want it to be Raheem Nunez-Roches. I don't want it to be Jeremiah Ledbetter or Roy Robertson Harris. I don't think those guys, like, it could be Chauncey Golston. He's only like 270 pounds. He's more of an edge, right? And I really like that Golston signing. But that's where I'm at with the talent that is on the board.
Yeah, I think if the Giants want to get that run stuffer, it's Alfred Collins, because that dude can control an interior gap. His extension is like his calling card. He just locks in on that chest plate, bench presses the dude, and just says, "You shall not pass." Rather, you shall not run.
Yeah, you shall not. He has that gravitational pull about him, right?
He does.
Where you can put him as a nose. A gaps, nobody in the A gaps. Nose and 2 4 eyes, or even 2 4s. And like, you can almost trust him if that's like a 3rd and 5 situation, for the halfback draw, that the defense won't be compromised, and you can allow him to just eat 2 blocks, and those linebackers will fit and make the play, because he's capable of doing that. He's not going to get pushed back. He's not going to concede a lot of ground. There's a lot of reason to buy into that. He's just not going to offer you anything as a pass rusher. That's where really the issue is. And there's argument to be had that, do I wait until 105 to get Cam Jackson from Florida? Do I wait even later and get like Yaya Black from Iowa? I don't think those players are nearly the type of player or don't have the upside of an Alfred Collins, but they are fire hydrants that you can put in the middle of your defense who are going to be hard to move. Yes. The double teams will struggle to move. And then like Joshua Farmer too from Florida State. It's like, what's his upside? He has pass rushing upside. He was like the only show in town at Florida State. And he's also just like this like thickly dense built dude who has a good first step. Like, so it's really defensive line. And then I didn't even get into the Deone Walker. I don't really want him at 65, but like, could you imagine him next to Dexter Lawrence? That's just like Matt. That's
a lot of dude. That is just a lot of dude.
Yeah, that's the Kentucky kid. He's 6'7", 330.
Yeah, like you're looking at about 700 pounds of dude between those two guys.
I know. It's tough to move. It's tough to move. But I don't know if I really buy into his skill set all that much either, especially at 65. I like the other guys that I listed, but still a name to monitor.
Yep. So I think we've about covered it for tonight. We should probably, let you get to studying tape. Maybe let Ed get to sleep. Producer Ed right now.
Is he still in there?
He's still in there.
Hey, Ed. What's up, bro? Yeah. No, hey, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We had a nice little turnout here. Almost 1 a.m, over 100 people in on the stream. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, please, guys, like, subscribe, comment to this stream as well. Big Blue View. Head on over to bigblueview.com. Check out all of our written content. I'm going to be coming out with videos on this stream as well. I'm going to be coming out with stuff all throughout that website, as will Chris, as will Tony, will the entire team. So please go and support us over at bigblueview.com. Go follow Big Blue View's Twitter or X account, whatever you want to call it, because it is the draft, ladies and gentlemen. Big time stuff coming down the pipeline. Giants got 2 guys, Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart, and they're going to add more tomorrow and the next day. So take care of each other, everyone. Have a lovely day.